everyone. Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm LaWanda.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And today we are here to talk about Ozark. This is our first time recapping Ozark, but it is definitely one of our favorites. We have been watching for a long time now. And so, this season is the last one. So I figured, why not recap it? A lot of people give us feedback asking us to recap this show. So here it is. We are ready. And we are going to be taking this, 2 to 3 episodes at a time. So to kick things off, we're going to be recapping episodes 1 and 2 today. So if you hang tight, we'll be right back with you. Like I said, we are talking Ozark. We are recapping episodes 1, which was titled The Beginning of the End, and episode 2, which was titled Let the Great World Spin. So things last season ended with Helen getting killed. And Ben also got killed. So there were a few major deaths last season. And now it seems like the first episode kind of flash forwarded to the present and then went back into the past where last season finished off. And so I was confused for a second because I seen them like riding in the car that the first episode, and I was like, it seemed like Marty took the deal because they were talking about moving out to another state. Mm-hmm. And I was like, really? Marty took the deal? Like, what's going on here? But then we flash back and they're in Mexico. So we actually get to see what happened after Helen got killed. And I want to know what you guys thought about Omar Navarro's proposition for them, because I bet they were not expecting that.
Yeah, well, the first thing was that, though, I wanted to say about that crash, because that was a hella crash. And, and then the very next scene, you see them wiping blood off each other. And I was really confused. In fact, I forgot all about episode 3. And then because I went directly to, well, if Wendy and Marty survived, did the kids survive? That was my thought, because I'm like, well, you don't see them. And
you thought they died in that crash.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, well, did they die in the crash? And, then I see the suits laid out for them. And I'm like, hold up. Let me get my head around this. So,
yeah, it was a flash forward.
Yeah, it was a real quick flash forward.
Yeah, it was a flash forward. And a lot of shows do that because it's like they'll start with a flash forward and then they kind of work up to that moment.
Yeah,
right.
I think that crash should have been dealt with, though, because that was a serious crash.
Yeah, it's gonna be dealt with. It's gonna be dealt with in the future. We're gonna see all the events leading up to that moment.
Yes, I agree. I was a little scared for them after, Helen got killed, because I know they said they didn't want her involved in their business anymore. But I mean, in Omar's mind, that means you dead. So
right.
Omar Navarro is, Helen has been with him, they said what, 10
years?
10 years?
Mm-hmm. Long time.
And you just walk up and put a bullet in her head like that?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's concerning, consider how much effort they're putting into making Omar's legit asset successful. And so to know that he will, at the drop of a dime, take somebody out that's been with him for that long.
Exactly.
That's a worry. I'd be scared.
But Marty, I'm sorry.
I said everyone's expendable. Sorry.
Everybody's expendable. Well, Marty and Wendy, they made that deal. They were like, listen, we can help you with the war. We can help you with that. But she has to be out the way. And so, basically they proved to be more valuable in that moment than Helen.
Particularly Wendy. Wendy is just cunning.
Oh, Wendy's off the hook.
She is a queen pen. Like, she has become a queen pen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can tell she really gets a kick out of that life.
Mhm.
Like, I think it gets her adrenaline going or something, especially the politics side of it.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. She misses it because apparently, they said she used to work in Chicago. The reputation that Chicago has for politics, and work with Obama and all of that and stuff. And I think after that, she had really pretty much become like a housewife. So now this is like she's sinking her teeth into this.
She's in her lane.
Well, they say politicians are a bunch of crooks anyway. So, she's right up her alley. She likes that power play, and she just loves that, and that's what we see with her.
I think it's a power trip too. It is a power. It feels powerful.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and I noticed that even too, if we fast forward to the second episode, where she's trying to basically gain political influence in the Ozarks, so that basically they control the state and they can kind of pull the strings as they wish. And so in order to do that, she has to talk with Jim, and Jim, of course, is somebody who has the know-how. And so he's kind of advising her, you need this amount of money, you got to make it by this deadline. And Wendy decides that, okay, we're going to go ahead and get us an opioid treatment facility. And she, that was something else. Right. Something else right there. She's playing both sides of it. She's going to, give you the drugs and treat you too.
Well, did Jim have a certain interest in Wendy? He must, because, and I'll talk about it a little more later, but Jim, if I were Jim, I'm sorry. We have to part ways after knowing who she's involved with.
Well, somebody was already like tapping him on the shoulder, advising him like, you're going to have to choose between them or the other guy that they were working with, Charles.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it seems like he was telling Wendy, anybody can be bought. And she's like, oh, even you?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I got to get to my next appointment. He just brushed over the question.
Exactly.
I think, I got to be careful with what I say because I want to give anything away. But if I remember correctly, it was monetary and it was based on his ability to work behind the scenes and maneuver.
I think so.
The role that he plays. So I guess for him, it's whatever allows him to do that. So if he's building power with Wendy behind the scenes, that allows him to help other clients that come to him. So I think that's what his interest is.
Yeah, and
so
I
don't think it's anything else.
I don't think so. I think he definitely likes her. I think he appreciates her ambition and the fact that what she says she's going to do, she gets it done. So I think that he admires that in her. And I think that's why he'll probably end up sticking with them. And so she has a lot of power players on her side. And with this lady, her name was Claire Shaw, and she was in charge of, this facility, getting these facilities going. And so basically they cut a deal with her. Like, look, you getting your opioids out the country right now. We can slash that price and give them to you right here in the States if you break us off a little something. And I was like, look at them work. I mean, it was just like so masterful to see them manipulate that situation. They had her financials. They really like dug into it and pulled her into this whole illegal situation. Like she was against it. And by the end of the night, I mean, they had her committing crimes.
Not right.
So,
I think that's what I appreciate them, because Marty was also what they have figured out. And this is what, it's basically a business show, how to succeed in business. And one of them is, do I add value? And they are very good at that, as figuring out how can I add value to this situation? What can I do for you? Even though the end goal is get something for themselves, how can I help you? And that's the most valuable thing now. I don't know if some of the other stuff, but it's a real good business strategy kind of show.
And the fact that your life is on the line gives you a little more incentive.
But one part that I love the most, it was near the beginning when Ruth decides to buy the hotel.
I love that.
And
we all have we want to play that in our mind, like if we can get back at that one boss that dogged us out.
Oh my God, and she did it so masterfully. I mean, I just had to give it up to her. I love that scene.
Yeah,
That's why I like
great.
Ruth. I like Ruth. She a little firecracker.
Is
She's smart. She has big cojones.
Yes.
country is all
A
get
young
up.
lady to be such a small young woman. Like man,
Country,
I rock with
country is all get up, but she's got it going on up here.
Oh yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She's sharp.
Mhm.
Yeah, and people might underestimate her because looking at her on the surface, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you write her off as being just another,
Country.
yeah,
Bumping.
yeah. But she really does have a lot of strategy. She plans things out. She, like you said, she knows how to have a good comeback for you.
Oh yeah.
And I was thinking like her plan to launder money through this hotel, it was a good idea because I think she's picked up a lot on what Marty has taught her. And so now she's like, okay, if we're going to go into business with Darlene, which huge mistake in my eyes.
Darlene is crazy.
She's beyond crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think Ruth just wants to be close to Wyatt because ultimately she's trying to refoster that relationship. Yeah, and so she's like, okay, if this can bring us closer, I'm willing to put up with Darlene in the meantime.
Yeah. It's the whole idea of just being with family because she thought that she was also gaining family with Marty and Wendy. But as we know, last season when they didn't step in after she got beat down by Frank Jr., she was thinking like, okay, they don't have my back. And then the situation with Ben.
Oh, really, that put the nail in the coffin.
That put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. And so I think that Ruth is just trying to find a sense of family again. And so with Ruth, her going into business with Darlene is so unpredictable. She is just like, I mean, I wouldn't want to work with her. She's erratic. But I mean, that's her prerogative there. And it seemed like they had a really good deal set up and where Darlene would get 50% and then she and Wyatt would split 25-25. But then Darlene kind of rotated things so where Ruth has the minority share in the business, which gives her no say so. She can get outvoted so easily by either one of them. And that's a problem for me. And I wish Ruth would have pushed back on that.
She couldn't because you can't push back with Darlene. That's the point. That's the point.
You push back with Darlene, she's getting the strap.
The whole operation does not work without her money laundering operation.
I started to say, as much as and like you said about Darlene's just bat crazy. But without Ruth, you don't really have a business. You're just growing. What was it, heroin or whatever it is? Mm-hmm. That's all you're doing.
First off, she wasn't even supposed to have a business because if you don't recall, Marty and Wendy gave her a warning.
A huge warning. I mean, but that goes, to me, Darlene acts as if she's just that crazy, bad-head woman that doesn't listen to anybody, does what she wants to do because she thinks she's all that. And of course,
she took out her own husband. So she ain't really scared of anybody.
Well, yeah, but you gotta, being afraid of somebody and being cautious about who you're dealing with, those are two different animals altogether. And unfortunately, Darlene is one of those people that think they can overcome anything. That might be good and a rally on how to deal with your health. But, it doesn't play well out there in the real world, particularly when you're dealing with cartels. I mean, thing to deal with a drug dealer is a whole entirely different show when you're dealing with a cartel.
Yeah.
I think she's still high off the fact that she did get rid of one of them. Remember when she killed old boy? Yeah. And so maybe she thinks that she can handle it the same way, but there's more where he came from.
Exactly.
The other part of it is that, Wyatt is not strong enough to stand up for her. So I don't know why, Darlene went in thinking that they were going to present a united front. It was like, no, Darlene, he's on Darlene's side.
Yes.
He's not in a position to say no or push back.
Well, the problem with this now, though, is that, so of course they ignored the warning that Marty and Wendy delivered about Omar saying like, okay, y'all you screwed up our supply last season. You killed a bunch of people because of that. So you need to cease and desist. And she ignored that. So then her plans with Big Frank fell through because he no longer wants to work with her because the sheriff gets axed. So if you don't have the protection from that sheriff, I'm not working with you. So now she's out of a distributor. Lo and behold, Ruth brings in this guy from Chicago, this restaurateur who can distribute the product. And he comes to the farm and Darlene completely sabotages it. She's so against the idea that Wyatt and Ruth are like scheming to change the face of her business to make it more trendy and hipster.
I was wondering, was that more of her case, or is she more or less jealous of the relationship that Wyatt and Ruth actually have?
I think it's both.
Yeah, it did seem to be a little bit of both, and because I noticed that look she was giving while they were scheming and having a good time talking about how they were going to do things. She had that look like, oh, you trying to move in on my man.
Are they cousins?
Well, I know they're cousins, but I'm saying in Darlene's eyes.
Yeah. But then again, what does that mean? Right. What does that mean?
In the country, anything might go down.
You're right about that. You're right about that.
Darlene was like, I don't know, just because y'all cousins don't mean nothing to me. But
well, you know what? I think she's very conscious of the fact of the age difference, because Wyatt and Ruth are peers. Right. They're same age and stuff. And Darlene was like, she old enough to be their grandmother.
Great grandmother. I mean, that's got to be a 50-year difference.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so I think that's part of it too. The fact that she feels like,
But it seemed like she really got irritated when they talked about like marketing the drug in this hipster way, and even like changing it into like this trendy marketing, or even they talked about planting soybeans on her farm, and she was like, okay, no, we ain't this meeting is adjourned.
I think it's a control thing. She just wants to be in control, and she didn't want to lose control of her business or anything. And I think that's always her defense mechanism.
And so shifting gears a little bit, we kind of mentioned the sheriff. Sheriff, he gets the information from this private investigator. We got to talk about him. This guy keeps popping up time after time after time at Marty's house, asking information about Helen and where she is, and he needs to serve her with these divorce papers. And he is like snooping around, eventually goes to the sheriff, John Nix, and says, can you do a wellness check, basically. John Nix heads over there, and Navarro's nephew is in the house, like it's his.
We should have talked about him.
No, that's
because first of all, like, he's been so unpredictable.
Javi is,
he's a firecracker. You don't know what you're gonna get out of him from one moment to the next.
And he reminds me of Kane, like from Ozark fans. If you watch Power Ghost 2, Kane is very unpredictable, and that's who Javi reminded me of. I think Javi is unpredictable as he is. He may be a little smarter than Kane because he went to business school and everything, but he's still just as unpredictable.
And also remember what Omar said to Marty, about Javi. He was saying that he is so ambitious that he may be willing to take me out and you.
Yep.
And I think, and it's interesting that Omar feels that way about his cousin or nephew.
That's his nephew,
his nephew. It's interesting he feels that way, but yet willing to keep him close. Well, I guess you should keep your enemies close.
I thought about that too, Ron, because I was like, I understand family and that bond there, but if somebody is threatening your life and your authority in this business, you gotta tread lightly. And if you believe that somebody is going to basically ruin your odds, especially when you're trying to walk away, why would you keep him around? Why wouldn't you take him out or try to get him to be under your authority in some kind of way? Because he seems like he knows it and he accepts it, but he's not actively doing anything. He checks him, but it's like, This guy's doing all this stuff.
It's a soft check. Instead of putting a muzzle on him, he does a soft check. So I guess he feels, he feels empowered to do whatever he wants to do because he believes that, Unc's not going to do anything to me. I'm the man. So I guess.
Sorry, Ron, but I think it's some family dynamics there where he knows that he can't touch him without it looking like he touched him. So it has to be somebody else. So there has to be some family rules, dynamics there where he can't do that. He can do a lot of stuff. And that just kind of shows that everybody is playing by some unconscious or conscious set of rules, whether we see it or not. Like Navarro is crazy, but even he has limits.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And so with Javi, with him popping up in town too, Marty and Wendy are just getting all kind of unexpected visits. But the fact that he would kill the sheriff, I know Mexico and their police are different. They can kind of get away with crimes like that against law enforcement and maybe get a slap on the wrist if you're high up in the cartel. But that don't fly over in the States. Your competition just got busted for committing a crime on US soil. And so you come over here and do the same thing. Where is your, he doesn't seem to have any fear of anything. No respect for authority.
He's very impetuous, but he knew that Marty and Wendy had a crematorium, didn't he? He was like,
we know exactly what to do with his body.
Yeah, he told him and the thing is, he's so straight up too, because when he popped up at the casino, it was like, oh, it's much nicer than I thought it would. And then he said, well, we're going to your house. And when he brought the pastries and stuff and he sat and ate with them, he was real matter of fact when he told him, he was like, I liked Helen and I actually lobbied for y'all to be killed.
Right.
He was like, I wanted y'all to go.
Right.
Yeah.
But, so I was like, wow, he gets right to it.
Yeah, and in some ways, he's more dangerous than Omar in that.
He is. He's more dangerous than Omar.
Well, I was waiting for Marty to make that phone call to say, your boy's in my way.
He told him because remember when they were at the house cleaning up the crime scene, he was like, your boss is calling, but you better not tell him I'm here.
Right, exactly. I was
right.
My thought was, what would happen if Marty made that phone call and said, Javi is in the way. Big time. We can't do what we need to do because he's out here threatening us. He's making these moves and he's just so,
Listen, I feel like Omar acts like he's scared of Javi. Because if he's sitting here trying to make an exit plan and trying to make sure he gets away clean and then trying to do it without alerting Javi and stuff, I don't know how much protection Marty and Wendy can look to Omar for against Javi. Just how he behaves. He checks Javi, but just what he said to Marty and Wendy, it makes me feel like he's scared of him a little bit.
And the thing is, Helen had basically like a security detail. And so I'm wondering where is that same thing for Wendy and Marty, because there has to be, I know Omar is going to have somebody to monitor them and their movement. And so if that was the case, then he should already be in the know that his nephew is over there interfering. So I'm like, well, where is this person that he's going to assign to Wendy and Marty to watch over them, to protect his assets, and to also give him the scoop on what they're doing?
Right now it's Javi. And I think that, I think that Omar is so into getting out of the organization and trying to live with, a cleaner life with his family, that he's really not thinking straight or care. It must be, and I'll say it's more of the latter. And the reason I say that is because if your nephew is, unrestrainable, he can really destroy the business overnight. So there's some question as to whether Omar even really cares about the business once he leaves.
And for those of you who are new viewers to this channel, we like to do something called Who Can Get These Hands? And today, I think it's safe to say that we are putting Javi on our Who Can Get These Hands list.
Yes, I think Jonah should. I'm gonna lobby for Jonah to get
Please.
the win.
Please, let's talk about this boy.
I was ready to come through the TV on Jonah. Like, I understand that Ben is gone. I do blame Wendy too for Ben's loss. It's some blame to go around, because even Ruth, it's definitely Ben himself, but Ben was mentally ill. So I really blame Wendy. So I understand Jonah's hurt. But on the other hand, Jonah is 14. Jonah is a minor child, and no minor child in my house would be coming and going and telling me when they're not going places, what they're not going to do and stuff. He was ignoring them. Yes, he was out of pocket. And I was like, okay, Jonah needs the hands.
Even when Mel, the PI, knocked on the door the first time asking questions about Helen, and Jonah with his big mouth opened up and said, you need to go and talk to her daughter.
Yeah.
And, and Wendy just looked at him and told him basically to clean it up. But see, right at around that time, my arm would have grown about 12 feet out. And what would have been going behind, with that is a huge smack in the mouth.
Right. I mean, that's not even the beginning of it. Let's talk about how he shot up all the windows.
Oh, and shot the window. And you talk about,
go there next.
And y'all talk about child abuse. What about, this isn't child abuse. This is corrected behavior. You can't just talk things out with certain types of children or kids, period, because, in some senses, kids are just born evil. You got to teach them the other side. Kids don't know. And and Jonah, he's been coddled so much. And I'm not sure, and I think it's more Marty's fault than it might be Wendy. I'm not exactly sure. Marty seems to be.
Neither one of them had control, to be honest.
I'm praying for Marty's composure, because the way that he keeps himself composed, Jonah was sitting up there bringing in the new machines, talking about, oh yeah, I'm laundering money for Ruth. And Marty just calmly walked in there and told Charlotte, don't talk to your brother about the business anymore. I would have been Marty, pulling my belt off.
I respect Marty's gangster, because he's just so composed, and he's a whiz with those numbers. I would definitely want him to do my books.
Well, remember what Wendy said? She said, "What you actually are
proud of him? He was proud of him.
He was
proud of a 14-year-old. Yeah, I would be proud of him too. But at the same token, you still need some correction." And that may be putting some physical hands on you, because Marty is off the chain.
All of that is true, except for they're like the worst parents ever. So I don't know what you're gonna respect. I don't know what you expect when you've kind of shown these kids that you are murderers and you're willing to kill your own brothers. That's hard. Like, I don't know how you get respect back after that. I mean,
no, you don't.
Yep, you can really tell. You could really tell when he gave Ben's ashes to Ruth. Yes. He was like, I gave it to somebody who loved him. I was like,
all I know is I grew up with the mentality, do as I say, not as I do.
No, I hear you. Now listen, Jonah has a right to feel the way he does. Like, so I will not dispute that at all. Yeah.
However, there's a trick.
As a minor child, you can say, I think that you can come and go as you please at 14. You shot up the house. You blurting out information to the detective. Like, he's working with the competition.
Yeah, he working with the competition. He gave away Ben's ashes. He's now over there getting caught on camera at Helen's house with a shotgun. And then on top of that, he did something else. Oh, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. But I was like, Jonah is out of control with this whole situation, because he talked about the sheriff too. And he basically let Wendy know, I know what you did.
Right.
And what he's not keeping in mind is that my parents are in business with Navarro. So everything they're doing is related to Navarro. Me going against my family is going against that cartel. And working with Ruth and Darlene, who are already on Navarro's hit list.
Death row.
And that puts you at odds with the person who can potentially take your life.
Go ahead, Ron.
I'm sorry. Let's talk about Charlotte, because she being the oldest of the group, I think that if Charlotte had more, put more into Jonah, she seems to ask sometimes the right question, but she seems to be very, very soft with Jonah. They all are, and I'm not exactly sure why. But I would like to see Charlotte take a stronger role against her younger brother, bringing him back. And I know she said that a couple of times. You're all.
She will.
Well,
and it wasn't too long ago. She was acting just like him.
She was, and I want to choke her too.
Yeah, exactly. And so she knows where he's coming from. I just think that he needs to be straightened up real quick, because one thing out of his mouth and they can all be killed.
And see, that's the thing. He has that kind of information. So it's almost like they have to walk the line with him a little bit, because he's already angry. So he's already doing things to sabotage them, right? Out of hurt, out of anger, out of whatever he's going through as a child. And so I'm just thinking, as a parent, you can put your hands on him. What are you going to do? Lock him down? Or do y'all really have a serious talk and walk him through it? You're going to get everybody killed. Is that what you're trying to do?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a good point, because why not say to him, like, you see that they had your Uncle Ben killed. What do you think will happen if you continue to do this?
He needs a dose of reality. He needs to understand the consequences that would come along with his actions. And I thought it was just out of control to the way Wendy reacted to Ruth. I know she was mad at Ben's ashes being given away, but I was like, wow, Wendy, like that was not the way to come at somebody like Ruth. Yes. And like, he would have been done with you in a month anyway. And like,
he didn't love you, which I don't believe. I do believe Ben loved her. I do believe Ben loved her. She just wanted to hurt Ruth.
You know who she reminded me of? Ghost, that last season, acting the fool, running off with the man, being real reckless. I was see what happened.
He was out of pocket. And that's why I think, I'm just saying it's an early prediction. We know this is the last season of Ozark, and I don't think everybody's getting out alive. And I feel like Wendy ain't gonna make it. That's just my prediction.
That's a good one, because sometimes being over ambitious can get you killed.
Well, I may be of a minority in this group, but I like the way Wendy handled that thing with her brother's ashes. Because for one thing, I don't think Wendy really wanted to kill him. She did. She had her back against the wall, and she wanted those ashes for herself. And Jonah, being very spiteful, extremely spiteful, went and took those things over to Ruth, talking about, well, she loved them anyway, as if Wendy didn't. And I think that made her snap. She was like, she didn't like Ruth to begin with. And to take the ashes over to Ruth, she just snapped. And I really don't blame her for getting in the car, driving over there and having a few words with Ruth.
And I'm a little concerned for Ruth though, because she had to do a little line of the drugs with the guy to basically show him that it was good. And I'm like, that's not a good combination, drugs and grief. And we seen her grieving early in the episode when she was buying a container to put Ben in. And so I'm like, I'm worried for her, and I hope that she doesn't get hooked on drugs.
I hope not either. I wanted to share something that a friend of mine said about Ozark when we were talking about the blame for Ben. And we know it was Wendy's fault, and Ben too, because Ben kept calling.
Ben is a person that brought his death.
Ben earned his death. He blew up the spot, but he's mentally ill. But my friend was like, she blamed Ruth too. She said, because when they had Ben locked away, Ruth had Darlene get him out. Right. And Wendy's argument last season was like, hey, had you left him there, he might have been safe. Sure. But I don't know if I believe that, because those of us who watch Power know that people have been killed in jail, that people were able to still touch them in jail. So I'm not sure. He was a loose end. Helen didn't look like the type that left loose ends. And with Navarro, I think they might have touched Ben anyway, even if he was in jail.
But we'll never know. But it does seem like Ruth made a better case for him to get You know, what it's almost like you could argue that we have him contained. You can pump him full of meds,
Yes.
silence him. You can do a lot of stuff. But once Ruth let him out, all of that goes away. So I think she is.
She did. She shared some
blame for not listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. She shared some blame in Ben's death.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to switch gears and talk about Maya. She is back. She just had her baby. She's about to go on maternity leave, and she's been applauded for her work with taking down that other cartel. But Marty has now been tasked with getting Omar into the country so that he can come and go as he pleases. And we know that Marty promised Omar that, you know, Maya was the FBI agent he kind of had in his pocket, but that we all know that's not really the case. And so that meeting that was set up where Maya has to go and meet Omar, he actually tells Maya to come alone. And I think that's because he knows that, you know, Marty really ain't got her like he say he got her. Well, and he wants to test her.
If I were Maya, I mean, the first thing that kind of caught me with Marty, because Marty sometimes seems like he doesn't really give a damn either. When Marty said he wanted to give Omar her telephone number or her address.
Her address, yeah, to pick her up.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, you're giving a cartel dude that doesn't care.
And that's exactly what she said.
Exactly. I mean, and Marty was thinking, oh well, I mean, what the hey? No, that can't fly. And you know, I think for me, that would have been my code to get out, because if you're willing to do that, you know, I don't know what I'm walking into. And then to be told to come alone in that meeting, if I were Marty, I would have said, no, that can't happen. I have to go with it. What were they going to do?
Yeah, and I love that Maya, that they chose this specific person to play this role, because she's a Black woman. Let's just put it out there where we all can see it. But we know our disposition. We are Black women, we know. And I feel like she's the voice of all, well, not you, Ron, sorry. But I feel like her voice is exactly what we would all be saying in the moment. And she says it how we would probably say it. And last season, we seen her with her wigs on. When she got to her hotel room, she had her braids underneath the wig. It's like just so real for me. And I was like, okay, so she's the righteous person on the show that is refusing to be compromised. And I hope that she doesn't, because I mean, I really don't want her to be.
Yeah. No, I don't either, but I don't want her to be gung-ho either, because the fact remains is she has a child.
Yes.
And these people are ruthless. And they've already shown that they, you know.
Yeah.
And her other detective, the guy, he actually got suspended from the force because he took that false confession from Helen last season. So I'm wondering what role he's going to play in all of this mess, because we know that he definitely has a vendetta and he wants his job back, and he still wants to avenge his lover.
Yeah.
You know, you can't trust Marty and Wendy.
Right.
They're very self-serving, even though most of the time their backs are up against the wall and they are being threatened. But it's that willingness and that desperation to kind of coerce and persuade people to get what they need at the time. It's almost like once you figure that out, you just can't deal with them like that. It's like, I got to figure out a way out of this, because they're going to get you killed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, but that's what I feel for Maya. I don't think she's going to be around much longer having to deal with the two of them, because they really just don't care. It's all about our needs, all about what we need and how we want to get back to Chicago and
start their new life.
And, and by any means necessary. And if that means eliminating you, you're gone.
And you know, part of it is like, that's a fantasy. Everybody knows once you get in, you can't get out.
Can't get out.
Like, right. They think they're gonna go back to their normal lives. And even even the government showing their hands with the, you know, like I'm like with Navarro, how they handle something. Anyway, I think the show is doing a great job with raising the stakes.
Yes.
And that's one thing I like to see when you're watching these shows with writing and stuff. Like just when you think that, you know, they might be all right, or their back is up against the wall, or something else will happen. Like every episode is taking it to new heights. And I'm like, man, how are they gonna get out of this situation or this corner or whatever? And so they do a great job of raising the stakes in this show.
Exactly, because I'm wondering that about this meeting with Maya and Omar, because we know Maya's disposition. She's not willing to be compromised. So what do you say when you're being threatened by someone that is a cartel leader, but you're someone that works for the U.S. government? It's like it's a strange position to be in, because it's two extremes on both sides, you know, U.S. government versus a cartel leader. And she's not willing to bend, but he is not willing to take no for an answer. So I wonder how that conversation goes. And then I'm also thinking too about this new sheriff in town. She's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, she's gonna be a problem. And she's real. I love the way she's
very clever.
Yeah,
she's very in tune.
I love the way she put Darlene in her place. You know, you can get away with that bribery crap, you know. But she put Darlene in her place just the way I had hoped she would.
Yeah.
Well, she said he wasn't the closer, so we get the job that he was taking bribes, but he just wasn't about that work either.
Well, yeah, and which he wasn't.
Yeah. And I was worried for Marty in the moment when she came to the house after he had just cleaned up, and she asked him a question and he kind of like lingered on answering it, and she was like, let's just walk out. You know, she didn't even make him answer the question. I was like, okay, this woman, she knows something is up. And like you said, she's clever.
That was the time I thought maybe Marty would walk out with her and say, look, you can't do anything right now, but I got this dude in here that's, who's part of the cartel, and I need help. I thought he would give some kind of clue like that, but of course he didn't.
That's too risky.
I know it is, but my thing is, Javier, he's got to go. One way or the other, he's got to go.
Definitely.
Yeah,
you know what
I think he's
that situation is, okay, we see Javier, but who's behind him? So sometimes you can't get rid of, it's not the person you get rid of, it's the person you got to deal with if you get rid of him.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and we know that's deep, but I don't know.
And then part of me was, when I thought about it, I was like, is Omar being straight with them? Like, Javi looks like he is a mess, and he does look like the type that would take out his uncle. But what if that is also a test from Navarro too, and is that he's like still hiding behind? He's still the big bad,
right? Like it's a ploy.
Yeah, I part of me wondered that too. Like,
because I'm like, why would he tell them that if that's the case? But I agree with you. It's definitely something with that.
I think once Omar found out that he killed that sheriff, things started to really click with Omar and what he needs to do. So it'll be interesting what happens to Javier once Omar actually gets out of the cartel business. And what does he do? What does he do with this crazy man that he has running the business?
Well, let's say if he gets out of the cartel business, because that seems almost impossible. Maya was saying that he would basically have to give up some big names, and we know snitching in that game is almost as bad as going to jail or dying. That's a death sentence. And then he not only will he have to snitch, he would still have to do jail time. Yeah. So you go into jail as a snitch. Yeah, that's not a good combination.
And Marty kind of laid that on her. And it's interesting how here you want the one of the biggest cartel leaders, and yet you're not willing. You really want to get what you want, but you really don't care about him, because you know full well if he gives you all that, he's not going to last 2 days in jail. You know that. So again, being an FBI operative in one of these kinds of situations is a very difficult thing to do, because you got to play it right down to the line. And so far, she seems to be doing a good job. But as you said, Luana, it's Marty. I just can't trust it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's looking good for Maya. I think she might get axed.
I'm scared. I think so too. I'm scared for her and her baby.
And her mom's. Her mom's is.
And her mom too. Yep. I'm scared for everybody.
Yeah, because she said mom was coming to town.
Right. And her mom's, she'll peep at, moms they don't lay on stuff like that. She'll peep out real quick.
Yeah. So overall, I enjoyed these first 2 episodes. I'm so excited that Ozark is back, as I'm sure we all are. Yeah, and definitely looking forward to seeing how things unfold. So you guys, Netflix releases all the episodes at once. So you probably binge watched majority of what's out there, but we are kind of taking our time with it. We're going to do, 2 episodes at a time, and we'll be back to do episodes 3 and 4 next week. So make sure that you are tuned in for that. Mark your calendar, set your notifications if you need to, so that you are back here to watch our recap. You guys got anything to add before we close out?
Oh, I do, because I text Tiffany when the scene where the sheriff walked into the house and Javi was there and they were playing Bam Bam in the background. And I was like, it's like
the soundtrack is everything.
Yeah, I was like, who they have doing this music? Because they pulled that one. We know that song.
And every episode soundtrack is rocking. I was at home swaying.
Yeah, but that one particular song is for the culture. So I was
like, yes, it is for the culture.
So I got to go back and look. But
I was like, okay,
I definitely appreciated that.
Okay, Javi.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
It makes me want to take a trip to Missouri and find Ozark National Park. I kind of just want to be a part of this thing. I mean, it's you would not expect. I didn't expect, for a little country town like Ozark to have such flavor coming out of it in terms of this criminal minded or this criminal instinct. If don't be surprised if I get on a plane. I tell you guys, I take a picture of me standing next to the sign that says Ozark National Park.
What they say, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, exactly.
I think little Duval was there.
I seen that post.
Oh yeah, okay.
Looks like it's beautiful country. So
beautiful country. There's some country-minded folks there, so I will be careful. That's for sure.
Yep. So if you guys have nothing else to add, I think we'll close out. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, like this video, and we are on social media, all platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, fan base at The Spot Real Talk. So make sure you give us a follow there. And if you're into other shows such as Power, that show, we do recap as well. So you can go back and look at our previous recaps for Power. And we will also be recapping the new show that features Joseph Sikora, who on Ozark plays as Frank Jr. Yeah. So yeah, we will be doing his new show, Force, which comes on Stars in a few weeks. So if you are a fan of Joseph Sikora, you can catch our recap of Force when it comes out. But I think we are about to call it a night for now. So we'll be back next week with episodes 3 and 4. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
I don't need to put it on your nose, but it's clear how my baby's running this a block, cause you fear what you do to you if you get dirty hands and veneer. What you do, what she is, little boy, I tell you this: if baby wants sit, she can sit.